This is Casey Kasem on with the countdown.
Number 39.
Previously on the channel. France finally summons the wherewithal to stand up to Hitler. Well, not quite. More like sit than stand. You've likely heard of Blitzkrieg, a German word which translated in French means we've tanked your hopes for victory by utterly humiliating you. Much like World War I, World War II wasn't monolithic militarily. Before Blitzkrieg came the first 8 months, known as Sitzkrieg, or more often the Phony War, or the Boer War. First, France fouls up an old maxim thinking the best offense is a defense. And you got it switched there. How is it you could figure out Hitler finally, but not Germany? How many times do they have to best you on the battlefield before you recognize hunkering in bunkers won't win wars? Next, let's review. You tell Poland, don't worry, if Hitler attacks you, we'll invade to help take the pressure off. Except you didn't. You ran at the sight of German reinforcements. Fail. You also failed Finland when, lo and behold, the Red Army tried to bulldoze the door down and invade there, and you kind of forgot your pledge to support them too. So, double fail.
This is Casey Kasem in Hollywood, on with the countdown.
Number 38.
Sometimes you have to go backward to go forward, so let's pause and rewind. 21 years ago, you rank as the first country to formally recognize Czechoslovakia as a new independent state. Bravo! 15 years ago, you signed a Treaty of Alliance. It includes a promise to support the Czechs if they get attacked, to enforce league and wartime agreements on their behalf. And yet, ultimately, the only thing you spill is ink, not blood. The Germans threaten war, and you fold like a cheap suit. When Czechoslovakia gains its freedom, you're the first to speak up, but when it loses its freedom, you're the last to lift a finger in protest. To add insult to injury, the very foreign minister you signed that alliance with is the president you betray. You excuse playing your part in the phony war, claiming, our army wasn't ready to fight. Well, gee, that's funny, because neither were the Germans, so they plundered Czech weaponry. Czech tanks exceeded German Mark IIIs in the Wehrmacht when Germany invaded France. If you'd stood up in September 1938, maybe you'd still be standing 2 years later. Just saying. More proof if I ever get a dog, and she's female, I'll name her Karma on your behalf.
Number 37.
One of the shining milestones in your original revolution was offering emancipation to French Jews, both religious worship and in civic participation, which was really commendable. The trial of Captain Dreyfus would have been shameful enough on its own, but in light of that earlier context, both the original episode and the retrial only tarnish your past even more deeply. How do you convict a clearly innocent man when your chief evidence against him proves to be a flipping forgery? Most importantly, as we'll see, your actions birthed the belief underlying Zionism, that if Jews could no longer call even France, first to grant them equality in the world, home, they had only one recourse: return to the Promised Land.
Number 36.
Germany was only supposed to have 100,000 total troops in the Wehrmacht, so wouldn't 20% of that total deploying to a DMZ, the Rhineland, merit a military response? It borders your damn country. It contributed to coal, steel, and iron output, resources required for rearmament. Instead you're like, wait, German threat? What German threat? What? Where?
Number 35.
France was waiting behind its Maginot Line, that vast underground fortress deemed impregnable by its military experts. Allied strategy relied upon starving the Reich into submission. Hitler's armies would collapse for lack of fuel and food and raw materials.
Emblematic of France's plan for a defensive war, the Maginot Line was meant to defend and deter German aggression. However, it didn't extend along the Belgian border, even after the Schlieffen Plan. Now, I've heard the counterclaim that Belgium bailed and failed to fund its portion. True, but why did Belgium suddenly cease cooperation with its old ally declaring neutrality? Because of reason 36 on this list. France had an agreement to protect Belgium, another example of France, the foe forever friend. Of course, given your failure to defend the Little Maginot Line in Czechoslovakia, it's small wonder the big one failed so spectacularly. No amount of quote-unquote glorified trenches was going to beat Blitzkrieg. And I might add, France, I really don't take kindly to your using Belgium as bait. Hey, Germany violated Belgium. Now we can legally cross the border.
Number 34.
My students struggle with saying French words. A perennial problematic pronunciation goes like this. Mr. V, about the Treaty of Versailles. Like, seriously, what is the deal with so many silent letters? Please don't tell me again, oh, it's beauty for beauty's sake. Yeah, I think an underlying reason that I find France insufferable is because I'm a utilitarian. If I'm going to purchase a phone or a car, like, I don't need the salesman to walk up to me and be, oh, well, this car, you know, Mr. V, it's like, it'll have this feature, this feature, this feature, this feature, this feature. And I have one follow-up question, which is, does it drive? So the language is like one big superorganism. The struggle is as real as the people and the nation themselves. Did you know, though, that almost a third of English words come from French? I mean, I kind of always knew French was a large part of it, but I figured it was because of Latin, but this is an actual third separate from it on its own.
My name is Casey Kasem, and the countdown goes on.
Number 33.
Now, some people are petty, some teachers are trifling, but there's petty and there's petit. Like, okay, France, fine. You want to punish Germany, why did you half-ass it then? Let's be forceful and then not enforce it. How half-assed? Let's review, shall we? 42. German non-compliance on dismantling forts? Color me surprised. Since this was covered by Article 180 as well, let's tally 2 infractions. 45. The Germans concede quote-unquote full and absolute possession of the Saarland. They marched in unopposed. It's hard for you to claim his army's too powerful when you let him seize the industrial capacity he needs to rearm, as I mentioned previously. It only emboldened Hitler to reoccupy the Rhineland after that. 80. Austrian independence. I'll refer you to the Anschluss and annexation again unopposed. 81. Oh look, Germany's supposed to recognize Czech independence too? The old frontier shall constitute the border? You know, you might try to argue the Munich Agreement supersedes these articles since the Allies were involved in the negotiations, fine, but you excluded Czechoslovakia from that meeting. How do you go from being the first to say, congratulations, you're a nation, even before the original treaty, to not inviting that nation to their own dismemberment party? Major party fail? Slightly. And when whatever the frontier between Germany and the Czechoslovak state gets violated in March 1939, your best response is a feeble protest and a flimsy promise. You know, don't worry, we'll intervene the next time. Article 87. Apparently third time really is the charm. Having failed to uphold the independence of 3 countries is the breaking point for France. Congratulations for finding your spine searching with both hands. Military, naval, and air clauses? Woo boy! We'll save the full account of appeasing Adolf's army aspirations for a future video, but a checklist will suffice for now. Demobilized and reduced, I'll take that was just a suggestion, like certainly stop is for certain drivers in this state. And my personal favorite, Article 118, the catch-all that clearly establishes that areas like Austria, the Sudetenland, Danzig, all the areas that Hitler claimed to be a Großdeutschland are off limits. Seriously, how do you set aside months of time for nitpicking negotiations to this level and then be like, wait, do we have to follow through? I mean, how do you tolerate all these infractions that literally lead to the very war you claim you fear to fight? Now, for a fairness to France moment. You weren't the only Allied power present, nor the only failed enforcer of the Big Four. Italy and Russia radicalized, so they're obviously AWOL in their duties. America isolated itself. The British bear the burden of responsibility too. But, lest we forget, geography gifted Germany to you. They're your neighbor. Blatant self-interest alone should have sufficed as motivation. I mean, after all, blatant self-interest has been a hallmark of your foreign policy in this video series thus far.
It's from coast to coast, American Top 40.
When it comes to French saints, even your average American clearly knows something about Joan of Arc. For the first time in the whole 100 Years' War, the tide's turning in France's favor. King Charles VII owes the safe passage to Reims that assures his coronation to her. Yet once she got captured, He sends no ransom request, mounts no mission to rescue her, he does literally nothing. To add insult to injury, again, a bishop calls him out, counseling unless he pulls out all the stops he'd be guilty of quote-unquote monstrous ingratitude. Charles simply ignores the letter. I'm gonna plead the fifth. Mon Dieu.
Casey's Coast to Coast, American Top 40.
Fast forward 5 centuries. The Austrian bank Credit Anstalt is collapsing, causing the Depression to deepen into what we know it as now. Saturday, June 20th, Herbert Hoover makes the case for a moratorium on debt repayment and reparations to the world. When businesses reopen on Monday, confidence is restored in security and commodities markets, as evidenced by prices rising the world over. The adverse economic ripple effects in Germany are halted as well. Everybody's on board with the proposal. Great Britain, Italy, Germany, Austria, all offer full endorsement. Who's the lone holdout? Crap, man, I'm drawing a blank right now. By the time said anonymous country agrees, it's too late. The bank panic resumes with a vengeance, and as I mentioned previously, the Depression becomes the Great Depression. You know, forget for a moment what they didn't do to deter Hitler while he was in power. This led to his rise to power. No offense, France, but it's an epic fail when you're actually increasing the status and stature of Herbert Hoover.
We're counting them down on American Top 40.
Casey's Coast to Coast.
So, no doubt, dear viewer, you know about the Reign of Terror. But, did you know that the very words terrorist and terrorism originate from that ugly episode and era? And lest we forget, this was all legal. The National Convention, the government at the time, voted to make terror government policy. When you think terrorists, you usually think of people using it against the government. Here, the terrorists were the government. Does this mean that France was the first state sponsor of terror? Or the first terrorist state? I'm gonna plead the fifth. Beyond that, thanks, Max. Hopkins FBI. Yeah. This may be, as one commenter put on the YouTube that I borrowed this from, the most French video game ever. Beyond that, I'm going to let this commentary by one of my favorite channels, Red Supre, and of course the video game itself, speak for itself.
I'm already digging the art. Oh, even more so now.
I'm pretty sure this is done in someone's notebook.
You are in the FBI.
You're really sawing out someone's brain in front of open windows like this?
It's not clean anymore.
Excuse me? Is that
The
like...
American flag is no longer clean.
I don't know if that conforms to the flag code. Is that like subtle political commentary of some kind?
I'm Agent Jackson.
Oh, look, it's an undercover agent just yelling to us from down the
What are you doing
street.
here? I'm on a mission.
No, don't tell us you're...
Oh, why the disguise?
Because you're
With this
undercover.
disguise, I'm sure not to attract attention from criminals.
Hopkins, you understand nothing about police procedure?
way.
All right, Samantha.
Samantha. She's on the case of the disappearance of the scientist.
And within... Wait, that's not what she's... Wait, what?
That looks like
What do
something
we
of
know
a
about the
deviant
scientist's
art.
disappearance?
2 months ago, some scientist mysteriously disappeared.
What is going on with her shirt?
What's going on
many
with
scientists
all of her
disappeared?
anatomy?
5 so far.
Boobs
they
don't
have?
work like that.
It's like... So, unfortunately, the one guy lives and shoots Hopkins dead.
This was scripted.
Yeah.
We are supposed to die here. Oh, are we a ghost cop? Are we a ghost FBI?
Kinda.
Oh!
Your file.
Oh my god!
Please go to the waiting room.
So this is heaven.
Found some chewing gum.
Chewing gum.
You're really just pilfering shit from your
Yeah.
girlfriend. You're the worst.
He's an awful person. He uses the gun to blow open the door or something.
Pulls out the
Oh, God,
megaphone.
wait.
Are you ready yet? We're having a day.
Wait, I was joking. Oh, I was joking. What the fuck?
None of the music in this game matches anything that's happening.
No, that is a really tall shirt.
Oh, I'm in charge of
Look how big those pockets are. Don't light a fake fireplace. Hopkins, no, it's not.
That's actually the puzzle.
No, Hopkins, don't do that. Oh, he's making a Molotov cocktail.
Oh Christ!
Wait, no, Hopkins.
We are the monster here.
Hopkins, don't. No, that's not how you light a fireplace. There is so much wrong with this!
That would have killed everyone in the room! That
No!
would have killed everyone!
Oh, look, it melted the wax on that model.
Oh.
And, yep, it's another dead victim. Good. Anyway, so now let's try it again. Why not?
Oh, yeah, dipshit.
Uh-oh.
You dipshit. Like, I knew that was gonna fucking happen.
Oh, man, we got tricked into killing our girlfriend.
Well, there goes my deviant girlfriend, whatever.
No one else in the shooting range is bothered by this. I killed Samantha Boss.
I killed Samantha once.
Are you crazy, Hopkins? I demand an explanation.
Berkson set a trap for me.
You've got to avenge.
Oh, well, he just believes you.
The murder that you committed!
This is ridiculous.
You gotta keep the press out of
No
this.
one can know what I
Will
did.
not leave this room.
What?
It was an accident,
What
okay?
do you mean it won't leave this room? It was in a public shooting place. What are you talking about? All right, my best friend, Captain Murky.
I resign.
I give up.
No way, Hopkins. Don't come
I'm
back before
done.
this case is solved.
I just want to play game in the mountains and be happy.
I think I found a clue.
Go ahead.
Well, there can be no more dead girls to upset me.
Samantha met an informant.
So what?
She disappeared
Oh my
just after
God.
that.
No,
So
even the
what?
boss doesn't give a shit. What if his agents die?
The informant told her about an island.
What?
So what?
There's gotta be a connection.
All right, we have to get to
between
this island.
Your hypothesis, Hopkins. Give me the
Give me
facts.
the facts.
The countdown rolls on.
The hits from coast to coast. American Top 40.
You try to redeem yourself, France. An open letter by your foreign minister serves as the catalyst for an agreement outlawing war itself, a decade after the end of the war to end all wars. A mere 3 years later, the first test of this agreement arrives, and you blow it. This is 1931. Hitler hasn't even seized power yet, though the bank collapse, of course, happens right after that. You know, of course, once he does show up, you let him eat your lunch and then roast you for dinner.
Casey's Coast to Coast.
You know, you might have noticed I have a problem with France invading Italy every other second, but this goes well beyond any ethnic umbrage as an Italian American. The turmoil and unrest resulting from the rampant repeated raids across the border helped cause the beginning of the end of the Italian Renaissance. Do I need to mention how big of a deal this is? I mean, maybe they felt they had a right given that they birthed it with the weakening of the Byzantines? I don't know. Starting to make me think. I'll come back to what I'm thinking in a second.
American Top 40.
You know, France, I was willing to concede you on reason 31. Hoover didn't consult with you before his announcement. Yeah, that kind of sort of made sense. You feel slighted. But let's rewind a couple years. The year, 1923. Germany requests a moratorium on reparations from the war. Britain's down with it. So is America. Your response? Invading Germany. You weaken the Weimar Republic to the extent a coup staged 10 months after you march in. And pray tell, who led that coup attempt? Oh, that's right, the right-wing nutjob and art school reject you may come to know and loathe later. Speaking of later, when you face a weak German government, you're all bellicose, send in the sabers. But when the same failed mustache model confronts you, you back down? I think you have it backwards?
And we're counting them down on American Top 40.
Casey's Coast to Coast.
French Redemption Part 2. France feels bad over how it bungled the Suez Crisis and didn't support Israel enough all the way through, so the obvious remedy, nuclear proliferation. France began building its own weapons program in 1954, simultaneously helping arm the Israelis. So, you know, France, I get you feel aggrieved when you weren't consulted before, but, you lied to both Britain and us about what you were doing. You provide Israel not only with its first real reactor, but all the ingredients to build the bomb except heavy water. Now, was all this atonement for anti-Semitism, Dreyfus, collaborating with the Nazis, the Holocaust?
My name's Casey Kasem, and the countdown doesn't stop till we get to number 1.
I'd accept that explanation, except for the fact you turn around and turn on Israel selling Iraq not one, but 2 nuclear reactors, named after, of all things, not only Egyptian gods, but the god of the dead.
Number 23.
But then, the coup de grace, these two acts of unequivocal atomic altruism on your part, coalesce in Operation Opera, whereby Israel eliminates the reactor that you installed at Osirak and sets back Saddam Hussein's nuclear weapons development, at least in the short term. That should have been the end of this story, but 6 months later you're like, let's rebuild the reactor that they destroyed? You contributed to World War I and World War II. Why the hell are you trying to cause a cataclysmic World War III in the hottest of hot spots? There were other great powers that helped contribute to the previous conflicts and conflagrations, I grant, but how many said, hey, let's arm literally both sides and really get this party started? Or was it part of a psychosis on your part to both birth and then kill another country, as I was noticing a moment ago? I mean, you already tried with America and Turkey. I guess it's not over till the fat lady sings, or in this case goes nuclear.
The countdown rolls on.
The hits from coast to coast. American Top 40.
So, France, your language is bad enough by itself, but to contribute words like terrorism and sadism to English, you're killing me.
Casey's Coast to Coast.
Full confession, this reason originally started as just a joke, I swear. I was compiling this list thinking, hey, I've never cared for mustard, let me throw Dijon on there just for the hell of it. But to discover that literally the word mustard originated in Old French, and mustard went from being something invented by Indians and Israelites to crowning France the manufacturer extraordinaire of the world. If mustard is the empire, that means France is the Death Star. You had to go and ruin a perfectly good hot dog, all the hot dogs of the world, and to add insult to injury, again, even the fries aren't French.
Down on American Top 40.
Casey's Coast to Coast.
That would be the number of years Napoleon occupied Belgium, origin of my family name. Yo, pipsqueak, hands off my homeland. Good grief. I mean, like, seriously, it's like I've noticed again, there are all these countries that you keep messing with more than once, again and again. I mean, between Syria, Italy, Egypt, and now Belgium, you basically become George Costanza.
What are you doing? What? Did you just double dip that chip?
Excuse me?
You double dipped the chip.
Double dipped? What are you talking about?
You dipped the chip, you took a bite, and you dipped again.
So?
That's like putting your whole mouth right in the dip. Look, from now on, when you take a chip, just take one dip and end it.
Well, I'm sorry, Timmy. But I don't dip that way.
Oh, you don't, huh?
No. You dip the way you want to dip. I'll dip the way I want to dip.
Give me the chip!
Hey! Get off the guy!
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Well, that wraps up this penultimate part of the video series. That means we have only the top 20 reasons left. I would say I saved the best for last, but you know I saved the worst. Not only in terms of reasons, but probably in terms of jokes. Certainly, I hope you've enjoyed this video and all the preceding videos. If there's any part of this that you would like to see developed into a full-fledged video of its own, if you feel like I didn't develop it or delve into it deeply enough for your curiosity, then certainly please let me know, especially in the comments or by direct message. And I hope you've enjoyed this as much as always I've enjoyed making it, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you all.